Well, hello, welcome everyone. This is the Console Room 2022 Satellite 9 convention, and we are here to do a pre-recorded panel called The Next Doctor. Our description is, with the announcement of Jodie Whittaker's departure from Doctor Who, we want to know who you think should play the next Doctor. So I and my other panelists will be discussing this over the next hour, and you're welcome to add in your own comments in the YouTube chat, which some of us may read later. And so I am Michael Zekka. I'm a frequent console room panelist. Years ago, I was one of the moderators on the All Outpost Gallifrey forums, and been a fan since '81 or thereabouts. Also known in some circles as the Colin Avenger, because I was a Colin Baker fan before it was fashionable to be. And
still isn't.
Hush. And I'd like to introduce my other panelists. Let's start with Diana.
Hi, it's Diana. Doctor Who fan, of course. Been panelist for Console Room for the last few in live and last year's virtual. I say that I also do a TC Trick Trivia's Wibbly Wobbly Wednesday trivia on Saturdays. Sorry, we also had a Wednesday trivia for a while in the cities. Saturday night, so come have some fun with us for a couple hours. Also, there is the escape room this year in live and partial virtual, so come join that as well.
Hi, I'm Hugh Gitlin. I'm a Doctor Who fan since the mid-70s. And I'm also doing a bunch of panels live this year. So if you see my name on the panel list and you're at the convention live, come see me and say hi. And let me tell you, the escape room, it's a hoot. I had a great time. I was one of the testers for the escape room this year, and I recommend it. So if you're at the convention or virtual, and get on a team that's doing the escape room, because there are some virtual things in the escape room.
Hybrid.
It's a very hybrid escape room. Yes.
And I am someone who will be a virtual only attendee of the convention. You'll see me on a lot of panels that are either pre-recorded or live virtually. Feel free to come find me on Discord and chat with me there too. Happy to chat about all kinds of subjects, Doctor Who, Lego, whatever. All right, so we're supposed to discuss the idea of casting the next Doctor, and I'm just going to start off by saying, so I've been through regeneration since Tom Baker became Peter Davison, and there have been very few times where I've put much thought into the casting for the next Doctor. A reason being, I really don't know the breadth of British actors available to play this role. More so these days than I did when I was younger, but even then, a lot of the names that float to mind are ones that are so well known and so well paid in Hollywood that they're not going to take the job. Much as I'd love Idris Elba to be in the role, ain't going to happen. I don't see it happening. I don't see any upside for him to take on this role, monetarily or otherwise. But
I would like to see it.
That being said, I know I did put a lot of thought in when Chris Chibnall was taking over, and had a lot of thoughts about who he might cast, and Diana did as well. We were talking about this before the panel. Yeah. And we came to the same conclusion, and we were darn close, but not quite right. We figured Chris Chibnall would go with a woman from Broadchurch. We picked the wrong one. We were expecting Olivia Colman.
Who is also still on a Doctor Who episode, School Reunion.
Yes, and who I still wouldn't mind being in the role, but I think she's busy enough getting enough other gigs, films, playing Queen Elizabeth.
Now that she has that Oscar, I don't think she's in the budget anymore.
Yeah, I mean, John Hurt was for one episode, but yeah, I think if you got an Oscar, you're probably not going to come and do Doctor Who at this point.
We were discussing this a little before. Will Russell do what Chibnall did and go to his show that he's running right now, which is available on HBO Max? It's a Sin. There's some good young actors on that show, and will he choose one of those? Someone he's familiar with, someone that he's worked with for now a season. Could that be a way he could go?
There is some upside for a showrunner to pick a known quantity. Obviously, they've already got a working relationship, and they'll know how they work with each other. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, Christopher Eccleston had worked with Russell before,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out on Doctor Who between them. Also, you said a lot of young actors, and I don't know how young they want to go with this role. Matt Smith was amazingly young to be playing this role. More frequently we get often actors who are in their mid 30s to mid 40s. Sometimes we go a little older. Matt Smith and Peter Davison were abnormally young in the role. It depends on the direction that they really want to go with the storytelling. I mean, I think if Russell's got some game plan for the storytelling of the show, they've got to cast somebody that fits that storytelling mode.
Yeah.
And so, Chris Chibnall obviously had a certain storytelling mode in mind. Stephen Moffat had some ideas as well. You could have cast some great actors who didn't fit the mode, and it may not have gone over as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's articles like on Digital Spy, hyping people like Omari Douglas and Ali Alexander and Lydia West from It's a Sin.
Mm-hmm.
Lydia West is a young woman of color. I mean, that
would tick a lot of boxes right now.
Yes. So that could be something that he's looking at. So it's
and that is a big consideration right now in the casting too. Since Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall, we're now at a point in history where a lot of people feel like the next Doctor also has to be a woman, or we'll never get another woman Doctor. And at the same time, Chris Chibnall kind of did some things in the Timeless Children arc to make sure that we had some other woman doctors in the Doctor's history, so that wouldn't be as much of a concern. Certainly a Doctor of color would be a bold move at this point, and a needed one for representation as well. And so those are some things that really need to be considered. I also have to wonder how much BBC politics might enter into this equation, and how much control Russell will have over who he gets. If there's a lot of pressure to cast a white male Doctor again, there might be some struggle there. On the other hand, it sounds like Bad Wolf Productions is getting a lot of power over the direction of Doctor Who in coming years.
Like
yes,
Russell's
I was very happy to see that, because
Russell's got a lot of control. So one name I'd like to see considered, another young actor, he's 24 right now, is Toheeb Jimmo from Ted Lasso. He plays Sam Obisanya, the young Nigerian striker. Had a great character arc in the second season. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you watching it and concentrating on Sam. His character was awesome, and he's a very good actor. So that's one person I'd like to see considered for the role. He's not big enough that he'll be priced out of the market too. So that's another.
Yeah, well, and I think I was referring before, not knowing the breadth of actors available, there is something to be said for grabbing someone who is not as well known yet, because you don't have to pay them a fortune up front to get them into the role, and you can really launch their career with this show. We kind of saw that with Matt Smith and David Tennant. They both had done some things prior to Doctor Who, but Doctor Who really launched their careers. That's true for companions as well. So even for an actor like that, the one that plays Sam, even if he was cast as a companion, that would be a big step too. And and I gotta say, coming into the Chibnall era before Jodie was cast, I was always feeling in the back of my head, if they didn't cast a woman, they needed to cast an Asian actor. And I'm saying Asian in the British sense, so including the Indian subcontinent. And Chibnall kind of made sure to cover that base with companions and with the master. So we got Yaz and we got Sasha Dewan as the master. And actually, that's a name right there. I wouldn't mind Sasha Dewan as the doctor, but unfortunately, that's been, I think, ruined by him being cast as the master.
Well, one thing that Jumo has an advantage is that Ted Lasso is done after this season. They're filming season 3, and I mean Brendan Hurd and Jason Sudeikis has announced that's the last season. So
that would free him up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's some questions, does Russell want to go older or younger with this doctor? What kind of presence does he want this doctor to have? What is the storyline that's going to be coming? How much is he going to add on to the storylines that Chris Chibnall is doing versus brushing them under a rug and we never hear from them again? These are all going to enter into the equation. Also, the writers that Russell is going to assemble around him to write these stories are going to influence this as well. And that's where I think there's been some failing the last few years. But anyway, and I don't just mean in the Chibnall era. I mean even the later Moffat era, some of the other writers bothered me.
How crowded a TARDIS does he want?
That's true. I've said before, I kind of feel like in many ways when Chibnall started this era, he was going for a sort of a soft reboot to get it back to a Hartnell era-like feel, but in the modern day where there's a lot of mystery around the Doctor, and that's sort of supported by the multiple companions thing. If we look back at Russell's run on the show, while there was sometimes a second companion like Captain Jack tagging along, it was usually one. And so you're probably going to have one Doctor, one companion most of the time.
And I think Chibnall wanted to turn it into an ensemble show, with the Doctor being part of the ensemble. But,
Chibnall also wanted a writer's room, and BBC fought him on that to be more like other modern American shows, and that might have helped the storytelling. I think the storyline of the Flux kind of forced it into that anyway, but yeah, I'd be curious to see which way Russell goes that way too. I think also a lot of fans will probably make some assumptions about the direction Russell will want to take the show and the feel the show will have, because we've seen Russell as producer before. But Russell T. Davis was the producer, now think about it, more than 10 years ago. And he's older, he's matured. He's probably matured as a writer and a showrunner in that time, as well as a person. He's going to have some different stories to tell. And his style will probably be different. I think also people have some fond memories of Russell's era without remembering the criticisms that existed then. And hopefully Russell's learned from that. But it will be interesting to see which direction goes. I really can't say I can nail down a Doctor actor without knowing what his plan is. Now, that being said, the tabloids are throwing all their names out, most of which are unrealistic. The fan sites like Digital Spy and others are coming up with maybe more realistic look at some of the possible actors. One name I have seen come up on a few of those lists is Tania Miller, and she is a woman of color. You've seen her before in Doctor Who in Hellbent, Clara's last story, where the Time Lord General regenerates after the Doctor shoots him and wakes up as a woman. Of color, and how do you handle all that testosterone? That's Tania Miller. She was also recently in an episode of Foundation. It was a single episode, but she was a very powerful character in that episode. She's got the acting chops. She's also appearing in Russell's Colin Baker story for Big Finish that is going to be released soon, Mind of the Hodiak.
I want to say, I love Jodie. She was given the best she could with what she was given. She's a wonderful actress. I would like to see her stay on for at least a season with Davies. I would have liked that. Obviously, that's not what's going to happen. But I think she could have had, just like we got Bill for one season and that would have been nice to have continued with that, and less Clara, and give us another season of Bill instead. And
all we can hope is that 5 years down the road, Big Finish has her locked down to do more stories. Like they're doing with Christopher Eccleston now. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Jodie stick around longer. I'm kind of sad that she's going so quickly and on so few stories. And I agree. I think the writing hasn't always supported her as well as it could have. I have no complaints with Jodie as the Doctor. I really don't. I have complaints with some of the writing in the era.
Yep.
But it was the same thing with Colin Baker. Loved Colin Baker in the role. I think the writing was terrible most of the time he was on the show. He could have done so much more with better writing, and we've seen that with Big Finish. It'll be interesting to see who else Russell pulls in around him to write. It'll be interesting to see who else he casts. Also, who you cast as the Doctor will influence who you cast as the companion or companions. So that will be interesting. Again, I don't know if he wants to go younger or older here. I don't know what he's planning.
I don't want him to go young white male.
Yeah, I don't either.
There's another 24-year-old actress, an Asian. She was in The Irregulars. Nadia Graham. Oh, she was excellent in that as like the leader. She has chops. I mean, she was also she was also in Doctor Who, but that's another thing. She was just in Doctor Who Flux as one of the main characters. I mean, but they have regenerated other people that played characters into the Doctor.
Yeah.
Or into a Time Lord. As a Time Lord has regenerated into someone they have met. It was Lala too. Layla, yeah. Or Ramana too.
Well, and Peter Capaldi took on a face that he'd encountered before as well.
Right.
As had Colin Baker, frankly.
Right. Colin Baker
shot Peter Davison in the face a year before that. So
Ramana too.
Yeah.
I mean, they've taken faces that were familiar.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and apparently we're going to revisit some old familiar faces.
It's good. I mean,
so they're going to bring Tom Baker back, right?
How about Georgia Moffat? Just kidding. She's too busy. And it would how do you fit in Jenny as now the Doctor?
Well, her son's available now.
He's still too young.
Yeah, but he could be
a white male.
True.
I think Natasha's asking us a question from on high. Though highly unlikely, what if the new Doctor is played by a non-UK actor?
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
How about someone from the Commonwealth, though? Someone who has the Queen as their ruler. And I am thinking of Kim from the Asian Australian actor. Very good.
I don't see the BBC ever allowing the Doctor to be played by a non-British actor. Okay. I just don't see that happening. I was even discussing this with my wife last night, the idea of, even if you had a good Irish actor that works in the UK, I'm not even sure they'd go there. Maybe Northern Ireland at best. Well, so Pierce Brosnan played James Bond, and that was pushing it a little bit.
Right. Well, and also they had up until Capaldi, Tennant could use his accent, his Scottish accent.
Well, Sylvester McCoy used a bit of Scottish accent, though not thickly, but he did have it there. But Tennant, I think, chose to go with the English accent in the role,
which I kind of wish he wouldn't have, but he did. Yeah. Either way, he can read a book in whatever accent he wants for me.
I mean, honestly, given where they've been filming this series for the last 16 years, they really need to hire a Welsh actor as the Doctor.
It'd be great to have a Welsh actor.
Yeah. Too bad Telfrin Thomas isn't around anymore, huh?
How about regenerating as an old Torchwood character? Oh, she didn't die.
So Naoko Mori, huh?
That would be good. We have to cover the Asian part. Absolutely. Yes.
I could go for Naoko Mori. That would work.
Yeah, that would be very good. That would be that's his. Was that him or Moffat that did Torchwood?
It was Chibnall and Davis.
Yeah, so she's worked with him.
Yeah. Plus, Naoko Mori was in an Eccleston episode prior to that.
So
Yeah.
it was Eve Miles.
Eve
So was Eve
Miles.
Miles, yes.
But Gwen is still alive. I think
Yeah.
can't regenerate into someone that's still alive. Usually
She
they
could
frowned on that
she
part.
could have been killed off screen.
Actually, Torchwood audio spoilers. Gwen may not be around anymore. Anyway,
Didn't know I did not.
So Eve Miles, I mean, Eve Miles was always a good choice, and
yeah,
I mean it could work some of those. And they're both Welsh, and they're both one is Asian.
And
Welsh.
Eve was also in Broadchurch.
Mhm.
Yes.
yes.
Oh wait, that's right. We recycle actors.
Actually, some of these actors are starting to get a little older. There are some actors from the Sarah Jane Adventures that might be available as well.
Oh, that's true.
One of whom last I heard was living with Sacha Dhawan. And has appeared on Doctor Who in the Chibnall era as a alien. Yeah. I think, though, if you go back and look at the history of Doctor Who casting, most of the casting choices are people you don't know. They've been in a few things, but you don't know them. They don't really have a connection to the Doctor Who world. They don't necessarily have a connection to the showrunner. They're just a good young actor or up-and-coming actor or whatever. Someone even that has some established history but hasn't had the real star breakout role yet, but has the right stuff for the role. I mean, really, what do we know of Sylvester McCoy prior to Time on the Ronnie? He was a bouncer for the Rolling Stones. He'd stick a ferret down his trousers doing stand-up acts and things. Now he's done Peter Jackson stuff. Not that he ever mentions it.
I mean,
it's in a Sense8 episode.
the name that came up before Jodie last time, the actor of color to come up last time was Richard Ayoade.
His name comes up a lot
from the IT crowd, and
I wouldn't hate it.
He's 44. I mean, probably in the wheelhouse age. Yeah. If Chibnall wants to go to the middle-age actor, he's in that wheelhouse age, so that might work too. But number one, we don't know. Like you said, we don't know what Davies wants to do age-wise for the Doctor.
And some people will react badly, go, oh my God, he's known for comedy, it'll just be a funny Doctor, and Russell will do more silly stuff again, and we don't know that. And the thing is, we have a history of actors who started in comedy that can do exceptional drama roles. I actually always hated Robin Williams when he was doing stand-up or doing comedy roles, but when he did serious drama, the man could act. He had good timing. He understood it all. Yeah, Jim Carrey's another one. Jim Carrey's comedy is annoying, but he's excellent as a dramatic actor.
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Lost in Translation.
Yeah. So I could see someone like Richard Ayoade being able to do some wonderful things with the role and being able to really stretch it. I don't discount that. I wouldn't hate that choice.
When we went from Tennant to Smith, I had no idea who Smith was. I don't think
anybody did. He hadn't done much
yet. So it's like, I think like bringing somebody who's like literally unknown, like, people like Tennant was in some movies, some we don't mention because we're like, yeah, okay.
Tennant was also in some Doctor Who audios prior to becoming the Doctor.
Tennant, his whole goal was to be the Doctor.
Yeah, and Stephen Moffat and Russell T. Davis got into television writing so they could eventually be writing Doctor Who. But
I would like to have somebody nobody's heard of.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just somebody who can go there. Maybe they've been in, because there's wonderful actors who are doing one-offs, of course, with Black Mirror. Bring someone there. We know there's someone. They've got the chops.
Yeah. See, didn't Jodie Whittaker do an episode?
Yes.
But when Matt Smith got the role, I IMDb'd him and I saw, he did like 10 episodes of this show called Party Animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to find it
Mm-hmm.
and watch him, and I go, God, this guy's good.
I mean, like
He's got some timing.
Casanova, Tennant, Casanova,
Yeah.
shirtless, we're okay. But
Well,
and he can do.
Even as much work as Christopher Eccleston had done before he did Doctor Who, I was only barely familiar with his work.
He was a supporting actor.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him in 28 Days Later in a supporting role, and then after he was
Gone in
cast,
60 Seconds.
I went and looked up and watched The Second Coming that Russell T Davies did with Christopher Eccleston, and it was excellent. And there were a lot of actors in there that appeared in Doctor Who since, but it wasn't like I was familiar with that prior to his casting. And that'll be the case with a lot of things.
That's a good thing about streaming and stuff like that. If they announce an actor that you really haven't heard of, you go to IMDb, look them up, see their prior work, and go find it and see what kind of actor that person is. I mean, and
at the same time, like Eccleston, like Gone for 60 Seconds, he was a mechanic.
Yeah,
they're definitely not playing somebody who you would have thought for like the Doctor.
But you could see him act. You could see, that he has some chops that he can act.
Yes, but he had to compete with the overacting of Nicolas Cage.
Well, that's true, but
so you're saying you don't want Nicolas Cage as the Doctor?
No.
They didn't say Italian American as the Doctor. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but we did have an Italian Scot, so
that's true.
Yeah.
But what I mean, when it's tough to talk about this because, like you said, we don't know what Davies is thinking, what kind of story he's going to tell, what kind of actor fits into the Doctor for that story.
And he's kept information pretty tight to the chest so far in terms of what he's thinking for down the road here. He's really, and that's partly because he's trying to respect Chibnall's remaining time with the show. He doesn't want to talk about what his plans are until Jodie's last episode has gone out.
Till January 2nd, 2022.
That's not her last story, though. She's got an Easter special and the centenary special.
They're doing like the same, like they're doing like a swan song, like they did Tennant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the centenary special next November, it will be her swan song and Chibnall's swan song, and I don't think Russell's going to say much till after that. They may even cast somebody and keep it secret for a while. I mean, there's just like, oh my God, they got to cast me. The new Doctor is not going to premiere until quite a ways off.
Probably 2024.
Yeah. So, and let's think about this too. Russell is going to be taking over as producer starting with the 60th anniversary special. Starting with the 60th anniversary special.
November 20-something night.
Terrible. I always thought it was terrible to be ending a Doctor on a Christmas special. Time of the Doctor was a terrible way for Matt Smith to go out. And for a new Doctor to be coming in, their very first story being in a multi-Doctor special kind of thing would be a terrible idea. So I'm hoping that anniversary special doesn't actually bring that new Doctor until the end of it.
Right.
There's a part of me that would like the anniversary special to be taking place during the regeneration.
Ooh,
it's all in the Doctor's mind, and so you can get multiple actors involved in there in that way, and then finally sits up on the new body at the end of the story, and then we go into the Russell T Davies era.
Would you like to see it just kept secret until the special?
Yeah, I'd like to see it kept secret until it airs.
You have all these people coming in to play the Doctor in the Doctor's mind, kind of like trying on these bodies in her mind.
Kind of like give you a chance to bring in some big names to
kind of like the way Romana 2 did, tried on bodies, and then all of a sudden you see her come out as Lala Ward coming out.
Or even in my mind, kind of what Big Finish did with Zagreus, where there's a whole long stretch in that story, which, by the way, that was Big Finish doing their 40th anniversary special. they got a lot of the classic doctors and companion actors to come in and voice other characters that were in the doctor's head. They were like representations of the doctor's mind, but they weren't the doctor. They weren't companions. They were other people that were part of this story in his head. And I think doing something like that on television could be quite interesting.
So, Russell, if you're watching this panel,
Yeah.
there's your idea for the 60th anniversary special.
Yeah. And I'm not going to sue you if you take it.
just give us a little credit in the story by, story by us.
but you, like you're saying, you could bring in a lot of big name actors as in guest spots in that episode to kind of what's the word for this, to just kind of confuse things, so the tabloids can keep their rumor mongering going, but none of it's really real. It's like, yeah, we saw Michael Sheen on the set. Yeah, but he's not going to be the actual pick, guys.
Yeah.
Olivia Colman and Nick Noble were on set.
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of surprises when it comes to certain things in Hollywood. I want to know more and more. But when it comes to the doctor, I want to be surprised.
Another thing that would be great for the acting industry and for representation is if the next doctor was an older woman. A grandmotherly character. Granted, that does sometimes limit some of the action and stuff you can do, so you always have to have a younger companion with, like they did in the Hartnell era. But let's face it, women over 40 have a hard time getting acting gigs a lot of times, more so in the US than Britain, but it's a problem even over there. And unless they're playing certain kinds of roles like the Queen. So to bring in an older woman to play an action character would be fantastic.
Bringing up another Ted Lasso character.
Hannah Waddingham?
No, Annette Badland.
Oh yeah, well, Annette Badland really brought to my mind too. She's an exceptional actress.
Oh, she is awesome. She's an awesome actress.
To this day, I am mad that they cast Imelda Staunton as Dolores Umbridge in the Harry Potter films.
Oh,
it should have been Annette Badland.
You're right.
She would have nailed that role.
I mean, in Ted Lasso, she plays a small role, but it's so important, and she does such a great job at it.
Yeah. And she's been doing a lot of work for Big Finish lately, playing a lot of different characters in a lot of their product lines.
Yep, she's doing some of the stuff already, so that's why I'm thinking if they want to go to an older woman, she'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Like you said, she wouldn't be doing a lot of the action.
But that's also, I think, okay, we've had a lot of action in the last era. Let's go back to a little bit, because we did, Hartnell didn't have, there was things, but it wasn't like because he was older. So
right, when you needed some physicality in the Hartnell era, that's what they had William Russell or Peter Purvis around for,
right,
typically, and Michael Craze toward the end. So yeah,
in the Aztecs, Hartnell just pretty much sat there and apparently got married.
Right. When in the Crusade, William Russell's Ian Chesterton was knighted by by King Richard the Lionhearted because he got in and saved him from things, and yeah. Whereas Patrick Troughton, they cast a younger actor, so he was able to get more physically involved in things.
Yep.
Then it got really physical after Pertwee.
It got very physical with Pertwee.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And there's another example of a character playing against type. John Pertwee was known as a comedy actor prior to Doctor Who, yet he's the James Bond Doctor.
Yeah,
that's why Richard would be a great doctor. Richard would be a great doctor.
Yeah,
because he's got chops.
Well, and again, if they would allow us to do a Commonwealth actor who wasn't British, and again, I don't think this will ever happen, both Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement wouldn't be terrible if you're going to go for a white male Commonwealth actor.
Yeah. But they won't. But
yeah, and Taika Waititi does stray from that a little bit, but they're also pretty busy doing films and other TV shows. So why would they do Doctor Who?
Writing
unless
up
that
a
was a
storm
goal.
and directing up a storm.
Yeah. But I mean, when you're directing Thor movies and making What We Do in the Shadows, you don't necessarily need to be working on Doctor Who.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think I'd love to have it be a surprise. I'd love to see on November 22nd, 2023, or whatever the Saturday closest to that date is, at well, we'll find out after everyone over in Britain will find out, because no way they're going to have it live unless they run it. Hopefully they can run it at, let's see, 7.
Even if they run it in the UK
Noon.
first, we're
No,
going to
but
know
no,
it
it'd be
quickly
noon.
enough.
No, they can run it at noon here.
They might simulcast it like they did with the 50th. You never know.
Yeah, and they might simulcast it like they did with with Jodie's first episode too.
Yeah.
I remember going to Natasha's house and watching it at noon on a Saturday, and everyone saw it at the same time.
Yeah. On the other hand, they might be doing the big media spectacle like they did when Capaldi was revealed.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'd love to just at 1:00 in the afternoon, when get the final regeneration, or 1:30, whenever it's done on that Saturday afternoon. There's the 14th Doctor.
Actually, what would really be fun is if they were to introduce the new Doctor early as a surprise within an episode before revealing it to the public. And what I mean is, we kind of got that with Capaldi and Day of the Doctor, but he'd already been cast. We got the angry eyebrows in there quickly. But I'm thinking more of how Oswin Oswald popped up at the beginning of Matt Smith's season 7, even though Clara Oswald wasn't introduced till halfway through the season. To have the new Doctor crop up like in Jodie's Easter special or something, or just briefly in some sort of crossover thing.
As a different character.
Not necessarily.
No, as the Doctor, but
they don't have to reveal that they are.
Okay.
Well, or they could. It just could
they
be
could reveal to us, but not reveal to
it could be a thing where the
right.
Doctor is like rescued by a future incarnation from themselves at some pivotal moment, and then goes on their way.
One.
If you think back to that one Weeping Angel two-parter, we had Matt Smith's Doctor from later in the season appear at one point with Amy, talking to her, and we didn't really latch on to the idea that it was the later in the season Matt Smith we were seeing at that point until the story played out later in the season. But you could do something like that where, a future incarnation of the Doctor crops up. We've had multi-Doctor stories before. Why couldn't we see it from the other end for once?
Yeah.
Or remember when Matt Smith was talking on his phone to Clara,
yeah.
while she's sitting there wondering who this old man is and if she can trust him.
Right.
Oh, the other one is
which was
the Joe Martin Doctor. She's, because we've already established she's not between 2 and 3 or something like that. She's a future Doctor. I don't think she's 14, but she's
Have we established her as a future Doctor?
No, she's a previous Doctor from another life that was stuck in the fob watch that was put into the TARDIS. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't seen Flex.
She's the fugitive Doctor. So you could bring in a Doctor that's really like the 18th or 19th Doctor, quote unquote, that you could think is the 18th or 19th, but ends up being the 14th. That she doesn't know she's going to regenerate either.
Although she doesn't yet.
No, in the Easter special,
we don't know how the storyline's going to go. She may get hints of it sooner. David Tennant was going through that whole range of specials, feeling something coming. People kept warning him it was coming. There may be that doom lingering over. I don't know. Well, we've talked a lot about issues without talking too many names, haven't we?
Yep.
We don't have many ideas because those
Yeah.
who we would love to see are too big for it.
Yeah.
And we each brought up some small names that we personally would like to see. I mean,
Yeah.
but like we said, we don't know what Davies is thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's still 20 months away.
Yep. Yep. We could throw out some names and see how we feel about the ideas. I'm going to throw one at you just out of the blue. John Boyega. Finn from the Star Wars films.
I see. Yeah, he's not really doing a lot of stuff. And
he butted heads with Disney a little bit about how bad the writing was on his character the last couple of films, and for the and how the support wasn't there for Kelly Marie Tran and so forth. But yeah, I mean, this would be back in his home country. He's worked with Jodie Whittaker before. Tack the block. Be interesting to see what he could do with it.
How about Marsha Thomason?
What was that name?
Marsha Thomason from White Collar. She was the one of the FBI people. She's British.
Okay.
And black female.
Okay.
She is currently in, I was thinking I saw her in an episode, a multi-episode block of some show that I just watched an episode of. I'll have to look that up right now.
While you're looking that up, Natasha wanted us just to remind our viewers that it is December 18th while we're filming this. So if the casting has been revealed by the time you see this panel, you'll understand why we don't know that yet.
She was in Lost.
Okay.
Played Naomi Dorrit in Lost. She played Diana Berrigan on White Collar. That's where I first saw her. And now she's let's see, she's doing a recurring character on Magnum PI. She's playing Higgins's kind of secret agent contact in the Magnum PI now. So I mean, she's still working. She's British.
Mm-hmm.
She checks all the buttons, but she is U.S. based. She'd have to move back home to do it. But
I know one name some of the sites are spinning is Michaela Cole.
Big name right now.
Yeah, been in a number of TV series and things in Britain, and yeah. Another big name in Britain who's been doing a lot of work on a lot of things that would be good in the role would be Phoebe Waller-Bridge. But granted, she could also write for this show. Maybe should be. I mean, they brought her in to do rewrites on the latest James Bond film, and I think to punch up the female characters a bit more. And excellent. Of course, she's known for her series Fleabag and so on, and she's won awards on both sides of the Atlantic. And she's been in Star Wars, so she's not unknown for fanish things. She was L3 in the Solo film, the Lando's droid. But yeah, and she's a tall woman too. So it's kind of interesting. Sometimes in Jodie Whittaker's era, when she comes up against some tall alien person, she looks really kind of small, and there's an intimidation factor. Some of the taller doctors have been be able to pull off with just their height, and Phoebe's quite tall.
Speaking of tall British women.
Mm-hmm.
Gwendolyn Christie.
I was just going there. Yes. Yeah. She's taller than I am, and I'm 6'3".
Than most guys.
Yep. And she loves to wear heels.
Oh.
She says with heels, she's like 6'8". Yeah. I
Another
think
person,
Phoebe's got stronger acting chops, to be honest. But yeah,
another person done wrong by Disney and Star Wars.
yeah, yeah, and HBO. At least toward the end.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
If you don't know who Gwendolyn Christie is, she was Brienne of Tarth on Game of Thrones and Captain Phasma in the Star Wars sequels. Yeah.
And she was in one of the Hunger Game movies.
Mm-hmm.
True.
The second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought of another name that ticks several of the boxes. She's a British actor, black, in sci-fi, and her series is wrapping right now. And that's Dominique Tipper from The Expanse. Plays Naomi Nagata.
Yep. That's another. I mean, there are so many talented. There's so many British women of color or men of color that can take this role and make it their own for 3 series. Because I think that's the going rate of a doctor right now.
And I really, really, really wish we could get one that breaks that mold. I'm tired of the 3 and done. I'm reading stories now of Jodie and Chibnall having come in with that plan, 3 and done. And why? It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, you don't have to hang on for 17 years and make us bored with the thing. 7 years with Tom was a little bit much, but 5 with John Pertwee worked just fine.
Yeah, and I think it was 4. Peter was 4?
Peter was just barely under 3.
3, okay.
He was one story short of 3 because they decided to introduce Colin Baker one story early.
And then Sylvester was the
3 plus the hiatus.
Right.
Yeah.
Effectively he was the longest run doctor, but he didn't have any televised stories in that gap.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not, it's like there's such a menu of British actors that aren't white men to choose from that if it is a white male, I will be disappointed.
Yeah. And I think I've heard stories, and I don't know at what point it happened, but at least once we've had one of those named black actors offered the role and turn it down during the modern era. Yeah. And that was it. I've heard differing stories on this, whether it was, and forgive me if I botch his name, but Chiwetel Ejiofor from Serenity and other thing, and Baron Mordo and Doctor Strange and so on, is one name that's come up as possibly having been the one. And David Yellow, I don't know if I'm remembering his name correctly.
King.
Yeah, and he was in some of the Planet of the Apes reboots, and
yeah, I think I know who you're talking.
Yeah, these are names that one of them possibly had been offered the role, possibly by Moffat, and turn it down. Which, I mean, you're getting film roles like that. Why would you take Doctor Who? I get it.
Right.
I mean, as much as we love Doctor Who, and as much as the modern era Doctor Who has really been a huge television event thing in Britain, you're still not going to turn around Hollywood money if you can get it. Not if you're an actor.
Unless that was a goal.
Yeah.
And then you'd probably not want to be the doctor, just at least a guest role.
Right. Or you'd do, a couple years and then be out because you're getting all these film roles thrown at you.
Well, that's the advantage of the British style of series. I mean, you do your 8 to 12 episodes, and you're done. You're done in 3 months instead of 6 months or 6 months of work.
Yeah.
You're done in 2.5, 3 months for all your shooting, and you have time to do the other stuff.
Yeah, and the modern era has shown it's been willing to put in some gaps to accommodate some of these things as well. There was a bit of gap there with Matt Smith, so he could go off and make a movie with Ryan Gosling, And we're so used here in America to shows being full season every year, full season every year, full season every year. We forget that a lot of British shows don't do that. Doctor Who tended to over most of its run. But, look at Red Dwarf. They've done 13 or 14 seasons scattered across 25 years. Some of them have done 6 months apart. Some of them have had a 3 or 4 year gap in between. That's just British television.
I mean, the modern Who, the reboot, the longest season's been what, 14 episodes?
Yeah, I mean, they were doing 13 plus a Christmas special back during the Russell T Davies era before. And in recent years, we've seen the episode counts get cut. We've seen the split season thing that's become popular with some American shows like The Walking Dead as well.
Yeah.
I kind of like it myself. I kind of feel like it needs to be one season, not 2 split seasons like that. But if they need to be shorter seasons, fine, I'll live with that. Initially, I think the Flux was going to be 8 episodes, and it got cut back to 6.
And
I think 8's not a terrible number for a Doctor Who season, honestly, in the modern era. I mean, if you think about it, since we're doing most episodes, or a single episode is a complete story, and back in the day, we have a lot more episodes to tell what we were telling. The Sylvester McCoy era seasons were quite short. They were 14, 25-minute episodes, but it was just 4 stories a season. And even though the Flux was 6 episodes, we got 6 stories. And they were full-length stories. So, yeah, I mean, Life on Mars, British series that John Sim was in, was 8 episodes a season, and its spin-off Ashes to Ashes with 8 episodes a season, and that worked quite well. I think that the American format we used to have of 26 episodes per season had so much filler, and I think we've seen on HBO and others have done the tighter seasons of 10 episodes, 13 episodes more in that British style. It has made for tighter storytelling, and I think that helps.
The CW is coming to that with some of their DC stories.
Yeah, and Doctor Who in the modern
14 for the longest for Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman are short seasons, and they're really. I mean, you could say what you want about the writing, but the story, there's no filler. They're going boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Especially Batwoman's writing could be better. Legends of Tomorrow's writing is great.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, during Russell T Davies's era, and with the 13 episodes per season, there were still a couple of filler episodes every season. So tightening it up a little bit's not a terrible thing to do. Right. Plus, they did those Dr. Light stories to keep the actors from burning out. So an 8 or 10 episode season would work for me.
Right, and that would allow a bigger name, but not a huge name, a name that's trying to break into movies and still be able to do a couple films and do a season of Doctor Who in a year.
Or even depending on their background, they may want to do some West End work in between even.
Right.
To keep those acting chops up. It depends on the actor you pick.
Or come over to this side of the pond and do Broadway.
Yeah. Or come over to this side of the pond and do another short episode season of some HBO series or Disney Plus series.
Like they do, yes. Like a lot of them do already.
Yeah.
You'll see them in a British show, and then they'll come over and do an American show, an HBO show or a Showtime show. And having a short season will allow that Doctor Who actor and those companion actors to come over and do more stuff. I think in the old Who days, when there was 20 some half-hour episodes in a season, it was hard for a Tom Baker to do a lot of other stuff.
Yeah. That being said, doing other things on the side of Doctor Who gets a little bit problematic, probably for the actor and for the BBC, because you don't want to tarnish your view of the audience as the Doctor by doing something a little too risque on the side. You know what I mean? Like, you don't
Yeah.
want to be like, oh, I'm the doctor right now, and very kid friendly, and then I go and do this really gruesome R-rated film in the meantime. That
You wait till you're
there,
done
there,
being the doctor to
right there's
go control a mind and kill your parents with your mind control, for God's sake.
right. So there's some limitations on what you'd be able to do in the meantime because of that. There'd probably be some things written in your contract of roles you wouldn't be able to take.
Right.
So there's upsides and downsides to all of that. I'm going to throw something out to you just because I'm sure some fans are dying for this, and because it's one of those things that just has to be discussed. David Tennant is a huge Doctor Who fan. He very happily came back for the anniversary special. He loves working on Doctor Who stuff. He worked with Russell T Davies before. What if they did something weird like bring Tennant back?
That's the only white male I'd accept.
Yeah. There's no doubt. Everyone knows I love my Tennant, but
I'm going to say right now, I don't want it to happen. Not in the TV series.
No.
I as much as I like the man, as much as I enjoyed his performance, we have to have new. That's what keeps the show breathing new life into it, is by
I think he'll come back.
People.
I think he'll come back sometime in 2024 during that first Davies series, maybe to shoot a 2 Doctors type thing.
Actually, I think what'll actually happen is, if they do a Doctor Who feature film at some point on the side, I could see bringing David Tennant back to be the lead in that. He could play the 10th Doctor again in a feature film that doesn't fit into the current continuity on TV, but fits back into his continuity then, or even doesn't even fit into the continuity. Or I know that there's been some rumblings that Russell might be looking, and with Bad Wolf Productions, looking at developing a lot of Doctor Who spin-offs again, like we had when Russell was the showrunner before, and kind of doing the Disney Plus thing with the Doctor Who universe. And so the idea of having some spin-off shows and then maybe a feature film or something, and you could use past Doctors in companions in some of those things, I could totally see Russell doing something like that. And I'd be down with David Tennant doing, something like that.
If Billy's available, I'd like to see it. What's that universe that she's living in now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A show, a Rose Tyler show, or the Tyler family show.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I'm still eager to get Ronnie and Clyde going. That's my Big Finish spinoff I want to do. With Ronnie and Clyde, like after Ronnie's graduated journalism school, and they connect back together and deal with stuff, just the two of them, and you could have, cameos from Luke and the others from time to time, but it's focused on them. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, so we don't really have any good conclusions as to who the next Doctor will be, but we certainly have some ideas on some things we'd like to see and some expectations of what restrictions we're working under. Do we know when we're going to find out who the next Doctor is? No idea. Would we like it to be a surprise? Yeah. But any last thoughts from the panelists before we wrap this up today?
No white men.
Yeah. I think that the representation is still important, especially given politics on both sides of the pond right now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for being here for this panel. There's plenty of other panels going on with Console Room this year, some live, some on YouTube pre-recorded. Come and join the discussion, chat in the chat here, chat in person, chat with us on Discord. It's a fun con.
Trying to think. I'm also on a live panel, how I met the Doctor, basically why I came into the Doctor Who fandom.
I'm on a bunch of live panels, and I have no idea. I don't remember what they were. I just know I have a lot of them, including one on running and biking in the Twin Cities. Spring is coming. So if you want to see me talk for an hour on running and biking, that'd be fun.
And I'll be talking a lot about the Chibnall era in some of my upcoming pre-recorded panels. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Yep.
And take you on to your next panel.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.